I wonder if that's in response to the map hack, as some people call it, but observer. So again, armies are getting quite large. Food count wise, we can see damn it, which one's the army? Army A. I pressed that one. No, I didn't. Food count wise, we can see the Zerg is in front. However, that is fairly typical in a PvZ because he is able to produce units faster, but the units are not necessarily as strong. The thinking behind this is if you have a 200-200 army and you lose your 200-200 army, you killed half of his army, and you can have another 200-200 army in 45 seconds. So Zerg will always lose out in a 200-200 fight, but will always be able to build up faster for a second attack. Now this amount is getting very, very scary because he has eked out a 30 food advantage over Protoss. That is larger than it should be. So if Scream was to push out right now, I believe he would win. The upgrades are about even with level 1 each, and the Colossi does not. No, yes, it does have range, but they are only at level 1. And before there's a second or third Colossus, he could gain as much as possible from that. Now, from this, he will learn of the Colossi, but he will not know total army composition. So that does make things interesting. These Hydras are going to be very, very susceptible to this Colossi. But if unmicroed, the Colossi will target the closest thing to it, which in an army like this is going to be Lings, which is where you don't want the Colossus targeting. So we do see 10 Lings and 3 Roaches out on the production overlay. Now these Hydras are in front of the Roaches, so the Hydras are trying to get out of position and the Roaches are trying to get in position, which is not a good place to be, because as I said, the Colossi are, unless otherwise targeted, are just going to target the first thing in the army. So these Colossi were able to deal massive damage with 7, 5, 8, 6 kills, 8 and 6 kills apiece, and this army coming out relatively unscathed. However, I'm not sure if this is going to be GG, because he will be able to replace that army very, very quickly with Mass Roach and Corruptor. We do now see Charge coming out for Zess. Charge is going to make things very, very interesting, but we do see Zess pushing out into his opponent's base, and if he is able to take out this gold, it won't actually do much because there isn't much mining there. However, with this force of Corruptors and Zealots and Roaches, he should be able to deal with this army, especially if he can get rid of the Colossi. So we shall see what happens, but I suspect this is going to end badly for Zerg. He does seem to have dropped behind and have lost the advantage, but we never know. These amount of Corruptors could potentially deal with these Colossi. These Colossi are now having to back off. This is not a position where these Colossi want to be. These Roaches can live another day because the Colossi cannot be involved in the fight. However, they are only able to irk a small advantage out as the Colossi are now returning but are dying very, very slowly. Unfortunately, Corruptors do not fire very quickly, so all the Colossi are now destroyed, and we can see the Roaches and 2 Spinecrawlers should be able to hold off this attack, given that there is not that much left. So with the defender's advantage of increased unit production and 2 Spinecrawlers, I think that Scream is just going to be just fine in this army from this confrontation. However, 1 Colossi and Mass Worker might be able to do it. No, those workers are just main-outing across the map to Zess's 3rd expansion. So we can see some Zealots and Stalkers over here, as well as a Colossi. So with this army, he may be able to push down his opponent, but not sure. He does now have Burrow, and with the new Burrow, with the new auto unburrow thing, I love it. You can now have automatic Baneling mines. Okay, so I'll explain it a bit more. If you burrow a unit and then right click on the unburrow, now it will auto cast unburrow. So whenever something comes within attack range, it will unburrow and attack it. Pardon me as I just take a drink. Zess just trying to remove as much creep from the map as possible, which is always a good idea when you're versing a Zerg whose high mobility on creep is very, very bad. Zess needs to get out of here because Scream is going to win out in this advantage with 1 armor and 1 attack. So back to the burrow thing. So I've been using a lot of burrow traps recently and it's been working great, to be honest. I did some Baneling burrow traps and it was great because before you had to actually explode them yourself. Now you just put some Banelings down. If the enemy ever walks over it, they explode. Because that's the melee distance, they just pop up into the ground and explode. It's great. I love it. Use it. Do it. Do it! That's what you should do! Now, Scream is massing up a fairly interesting force of roaches and corruptors. Now, I'll be interested to see if he does make them into a Gracious Spire and Hive Tech. I don't think he will. He seems to have done a reasonable amount of upgrades. I don't think a double Evo chamber has yet been justified, given he's only got 2 upgrades and they were both 1 at a time. We do now see level 2 weapons coming out for Zess. He already got the shield first. I'm not sure how much of a fan of this I am. I'm more in favour with Zerg to go armor, weapons, shield, because armor affects your units and makes them much more durability. Weapons is good on things, and then shield is for all your units. So that's my general preference if I'm going ground army. So we can now see these corruptors are able to deal large amount of damage to these colossi, especially when corrupted. So that is removing one of Zess's biggest advantages, and with these 12 roaches in production, this amount of stalkers I think will be dealt with short, quick. Now, Zess Scream does need to put down some upgrades very, very quickly, or he's going to start falling behind in the confrontations, which is not going to be a good place to be. He also needs to turn around and deal with this Colossi. It is being targeted by 1 Corruptor, so will die very slowly. And by slowly, I mean very slowly. But this attacking force has now been whittled down to 2 Stalkers and a Colossi. These 4 Roaches should, in theory, be able to deal with it. Yep, there goes the Colossi, and if you focus fire the Stalkers, 1, you may not even know, you will probably lose a Roach. There you go, he lost 1 Roach versus a Colossi and 2 Stalkers. So, a good exchange on his part. I am a bit puzzled as to who's going to win. High Templar, the bane of Zerg. Yes, I do now believe Zess is going to win because he has anti-ground damage, which Zess can't do jack shit about. Scream can't do jack shit about, because Scream is not... Okay, Infestors, I changed my mind. Maybe it'll go... I have no idea which way it'll go. Infestors are... Infestor vs. High Templar, not something I see on a very regular basis. Also, given I hardly ever use Infestors, I don't even know what they're useful for. I know they can burrow, move, and fling up lings. Sorry, not lings, marines, but it's still not something I'm very used to having to deal with, or shoutcast, for that matter. So he is producing, at the moment, just units which can move while burrowed, so maybe we're going to see some sneak attacks into Zess's mineral line to see what economic damage he can deal. But this force is going to be quite terrifying with this amount of High Templar and 2 Immortals. Immortals versus Roaches is not a good place to be. However, Immortals versus Marines is not good, and I suggest we are going to see a bunch of Marines. Yes, here they go. But they are being stormed. They are being stormed. Very, very critical damage. As I said, these storms are dealing quite a lot of damage. The Marines did not do much because they were stormed as soon as spawned. So I believe this is now game over for Scream, and Zess has worked out an advantage with his High Templar. I don't really know what Scream could have done to counter that. I've never had to verse High Templars as a Zerg, and Archons, as we all know, are just anti-Zerg because they deal bonus damage versus biological, and every Zerg unit is biological. Which means if you ever do the Archon toilet versus Zerg, you can, you won't need as many Archons. Oh, feedbacking that Corruptor. Ouch! Ouchie! So, we can now see that nothing particularly interesting has happened. Scream is producing some more Zerglings. I am now wondering things. about who is going to win. I think Zess is still the one who's going to come out on top, but you never know. Stranger things have happened, right? Maybe, maybe not. Let's find out. So Scream is in the more defensive positions. Line of cannons. Yep. No Ling Ryan Bowser getting past me. No, you're all dead. Scream then GG's and leaves. No particular confrontation happened. Wait, no, I do see sliced Zerglings in half. So he did try to push out with as many Lings as he could, and it didn't really go too well. So some very, very good play by Zess. I think he did just eke out that advantage, that tiny little point where a player goes from this and this even to this and this. And Zess pulled out that tiny advantage, which started he pulled out that snowball, which started the avalanche with High Templars. Those High Templars allowed him to kill a majority of the army and not lose as many units of his, and then slowly but surely push into the win. This is Kano DVT signing off, and I'll see you guys next time when I decide to cast Game 2.